I don't even know where to start. The past 6 months have been an absolute disaster, and it only seems to be getting worse. My best friend since elementary school, who I'll call Alice, passed away in February from cancer. She had a 2-year-old daughter who went into the custody of her mother after she passed away, who I'll call Alexis. Last month, Alexis showed up on our doorstep unannounced, telling my husband he needs to take responsibility for his child and either take custody or finally start paying child support. She says that Alice had told her who the father was when her daughter was born, but Alice didn't want anything to do with him. To answer the inevitable question, Alice was a traveling nurse and made a lot of money, which is the only reason I can think of for why she didn't seek child support. During this conversation, my husband had the worst panic attack he's ever had, so we had to end the conversation before I could get more details. My husband's story is, I don't even know. He said that Alice's daughter is probably his, but that it isn't what I think. Almost 3 years ago, we threw a large housewarming party as we had just moved into our dream home after I finally finished residency and was set to earn real money for once. Alice was in town and was supposed to be at the party, but I was called into work before she got there. I didn't get back until after 3 a.m. The party was winding down. My husband was passed out upstairs, and Alice had already left the party, which at the time I found strange as we hadn't seen each other in months. My husband claims he woke up in the middle of the night to find Alice on top of him, but he passed out again before he could say anything. He claims he never told me because he was worried I wouldn't believe him, which I don't know if I do. He showed me some texts he sent his best friend the next day asking for advice about him thinking someone rapped him. But if he cheated, he could have had that conversation as evidence, especially since he never said Alice specifically. Ever since the party, he has been very distant with Alice, and after she had her daughter, he would even find excuses not to be around the house when she would visit at all. I don't know if that's because he cheated or if Alice did actually rap him, and this was his trauma response. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I've known Alice since we were children, and she had never come across as that kind of person. But I've also known my husband for over a decade, and he's not once ever given the inclination of a cheater. He's an attractive guy, and I've seen the looks he gets at the gym, and he's never even given more than a glance. What in the world should I do? How do I figure out what the truth is here when Alice isn't even around to defend herself? She never even implied she liked my husband, let alone wanted to sleep with him. I told my husband he needs to get a DNA test before anything is decided regarding the child, but in the meantime, he needs to move out while I think about what I'm going to do here. To add, after talking with you, I've come to the realization that my husband is being truthful. My best friend rapped him. Several people pointed out that with Alice not liking my husband, if it was an affair, she would have told me when she was dying, if only to separate us. You're absolutely right. I was there, in the room while she passed. I held her hands for days. We talked about so much. If it was just an affair, she would have told me. But if she rapped my husband, she wouldn't have said a word. That's the type of thing horrible people take to the grave. I've also come to the realization that I made a terrible mistake asking my husband to leave for a few days while I gather my thoughts. Not to make excuses, but losing my best friend to cancer, a long cancer fight at that, was brutal. To say that I was devastated wouldn't do it justice. That it happened only 6 months ago, I'm still feeling it every day. So to have this thrown on me, it's like I'm losing her all over again. Either she betrayed me and slept with my husband, or she betrayed me and rapped my husband. Not only have I lost her, but now I've lost the good memories, an entire lifetime's worth. It was impossible for me to look at him and not also see her, and be struck with the horror and realization of that loss all over again. I felt I needed to be able to break down, grieve, and think without the fresh wave of loss I felt every time I saw him. It was wrong of me to ask him to leave. You're right, though, and as of a few minutes ago, I've corrected this wrong. I called my husband, I apologized, told him I believe him, and begged him to come home. He'll be here in half an hour at most, and I'm going to support my husband the way I know he would have supported me. I've been an on and off user for several years, and sometimes the advice given on forums like these can be a bit hit or miss. But today, you all did well. You've helped me realize not only that I was wrong, being foolish at that, but that I was hurting the person that needed me the most. I was selfish. I have no idea what we're going to do regarding the potential daughter, but I can assure you we'll deal with it together. It's going to take a lot of time and probably a lot of therapy to grieve this new loss. I feel numb now, as though I'll never cry again. My best friend rapped my husband, which means she was no friend of mine. She flaunted it, coming to my house, sitting with me and chatting. She brought her child here, trying to rub it in his face, right in front of me. She tortured the man I loved, and I was an unknowing party to it. I feel sick to my stomach over how many times she came over just to hold it over him. I'm honestly at a loss on how to make that up to him. If you all have any ideas, please feel free to share them with me. I think I'll need all the help I can get. Tomorrow I'm going to take a leave of absence from work just until we can figure out our next steps and get our heads on straight. Thank you, everyone. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. There are a lot of comments suggesting a DNA test, but I think you and your husband should consider talking to a family law lawyer first to determine what may happen if the DNA establishes paternity. In all likelihood, his name is not on the birth certificate if Alice was hiding this encounter. I also don't know how your jurisdiction handles parental obligations in situations of rap. Your husband does not seem to be fighting the possibility, so a DNA test won't necessarily solve your marital issues, and it may expose him to responsibilities, financial and otherwise, that he clearly has not wanted for the last 2 years. Comment 2. Dude, he literally told you why he didn't say anything about the attack. Because you don't believe him despite the text evidence and his clear avoidance of who he says rapped him. He texted his best friend the next day about being attacked and did everything he possibly could to stay away from Alice after he texted his friend about being rapped. I feel bad for your husband. His fears were 100% valid, and the proof is in the pudding. I hope he's receiving the proper support. Now for the update. Alice's memorial service was something else. It was held at a local community hall that was decorated with pictures of her, some of which I didn't even know existed. The whole atmosphere was somber, but at least it was filled with friends and family who cared about her. Still, I felt really down, especially when I thought about how I was supposed to act around Alexis, Alice's mom. After everything that had happened, I wasn't sure what was expected of me. During the service, I noticed my husband whispering with a family friend. I felt this pit in my stomach, like, why are you whispering? What are you talking about? I hate to admit it, but it sparked this distrust in me that I didn't know was still lurking around. After the service, Alexis came up to us, visibly upset. She was demanding clarity about whether my husband was the father of Alice's daughter or not. Like, why now? He told her again that nothing inappropriate happened, but she insisted he take a DNA test. I could feel the tension rising because then she threatened him with legal action if he refused. I mean, what kind of legal action can you even take in this situation? We decided to go to our favorite diner to talk. I thought maybe the familiarity of it all would ease the tension. Over our usual milkshakes, my husband insisted he would take the DNA test just to put this issue to rest. I just nodded. A week later, we received the testing kit in the mail. It felt so surreal to see something so official. Like, how did we get here? My sister came to visit around the same time. She brought up Alice's daughter, which led to this awkward silence. I could tell she felt like she had to say something, but it just made everything worse. During her visit, my husband excused himself to take a phone call, leaving me to explain the whole situation. My sister expressed concern about how this might affect our marriage. I just felt more stressed hearing her say that, like, thanks for the reminder. The next day, while my husband was at work, I found myself scrolling through Alice's old social media posts. I know, probably not the best idea, but I discovered a post where she mentioned a secret during a night out a few years ago. I just stared at my screen, puzzled. I confronted my husband about the post that evening. We ended up in an argument about trust, and why he never told me about Alice coming on to him. A few days later, the results of the DNA test arrived. We opened it together, and he was confirmed not to be the father. There was this moment of relief, but then the phone rang. It was Alexis. She claimed she had found new evidence suggesting he could be the father. I was like, seriously? What now? She told us that Alice had confided in someone else about a possible affair. Just when I thought we were done with new doubts, here we were again. The tension in our marriage grew. My husband felt backed into a corner with all these ongoing accusations. We decided to attend a family dinner at my parents' house to distract ourselves. During dinner, my dad brought up Alice, which made my mom cry about losing a good girl. My husband excused himself to the bathroom, and I overheard my parents discussing our situation. They expressed concern about the integrity of my marriage and how this might affect our family reputation. I felt so cornered, and I just wanted to leave. I decided to leave the dinner early with my husband. We had an argument in the car about how to handle this ongoing drama with Alexis. He suggested going to talk to Alexis directly to clear the air, but I wasn't ready for that. Days later, we finally went to meet Alexis at a local cafe. The meeting turned confrontational pretty quickly. Alexis accused my husband of hiding the truth. I tried to mediate, but the conversation just spiraled into a shouting match. We returned home, both of us exhausted and frustrated. I can't even begin to describe how emotionally drained I feel right now. It's like this never-ending cycle of drama and uncertainty, and I honestly just want it to be over. I'm relieved that the DNA test came back negative, but now there's just more chaos with these new claims from Alexis. My husband and I are more on edge with each other than ever, and it's so exhausting. Even family dinners are a minefield now, with everyone whispering about us and our marriage. It's like we're under a microscope, and I just want to escape. Again, thank you to everyone who gave helpful advice. I'm not sure if I will be updating further, however. To answer a few questions, the DNA test required a simple cheek swab, which my husband found odd but did without any fuss. The new evidence Alexis mentioned was vague, leaving us confused about its credibility. We are not sure if Alexis is looking for attention or genuinely believes my husband is involved. Am I the idiot for blocking my ex and his new wife after finding out they cheated for 3 years? My nightmare began last year when we got engaged after being together for 10 years. We had the best time in South America. However, since August, he started to become distant. He did not want to get involved in our wedding preparations or throw our engagement party. Then, he landed an amazing new job and had to go to Vancouver. When he returned, everything changed. I knew he was breaking up with me the moment I saw him. We had our ups and downs during our relationship. He was messy and struggled with anger issues, while he told me he was no longer attracted to me because I had gained weight. I am Caribbean and he is white. I tend to gain weight, I know, but I tried everything and nothing worked. He broke up with me, and I was devastated. But what came next was even harder to bear. He had a new girlfriend just a month later, a woman in her late 20s, skinny with lighter skin than mine, and what many men would consider hot. Personally, I don't think she is. I consider myself quite attractive. My friends often tell me that I am sexy, capable, and many other things. However, in our final years together, he couldn't maintain an hard-on with me because he was no longer attracted to me. This June, he married her. What I had hoped for over all these years, she achieved in just months. I'm still deeply hurt. I resent her for taking what was once mine. How can I cope with this pain? I'm still so hurt and struggling to move on. Why did he marry her and not me after all these years? To add, I don't know why people are portraying me as the villain here. Let me explain some details. Firstly, he never treated me fairly in financial matters. We lived together for years and always split things 50-50, even though he had a higher salary. Now, I've heard from mutual friends that he is apparently the main provider. Secondly, I don't believe she is innocent in this situation. Yes, they officially started their relationship a month after we broke up, but I suspect he was cheating long before that. I don't have concrete proof, but I just have a feeling. He went to Vancouver for work, and when he returned, his behavior was strange. He broke up with me 2 weeks later. Coincidentally, she lives in Vancouver. Thirdly, why did I tolerate his anger issues and messiness? He always attributed it to his attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and I tried to support him in every possible way. Lastly, yes, I have blocked both of them, but I occasionally unblock them and end up discovering more hurtful information. For instance, the other day I saw on an Instagram story that they were sleeping in our bed or that she is using my kitchen items. It's incredibly painful. I don't understand why people are so upset with me for speaking out, but also a mutual friend informed me that she is only with him for the visa. No, she isn't innocent here. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Stop fixating on his new wife. You need to direct your anger at the man who has made you feel this way. The new woman has nothing to do with this. You were together for 10 years, and honestly, most couples who get together in their early 20s grow apart over time. You are both totally different people than you were a decade ago. It sounds like your relationship was on the decline for a few years before he ended things. You're still young and have a lot of time left to meet someone who is a better match for you. I was 34 when I met my husband. I'm watching all my friends in their late 30s and early 40s enjoy happy relationships after finally getting out of long, unhappy ones. I think you need to focus on yourself. Get into therapy if you can afford it. Find a new hobby, reconnect with your friends, go on a fun trip. Your ex is someone else's problem now. Time to stop pining for a man who didn't appreciate you anymore. Comment 2. This is a seriously unhealthy way to look at this. Don't waste time analyzing their relationship. The point is, for whatever reason, horrible or not, he didn't want to marry you. He did want to marry her. Maybe he's shallow, or maybe it's something else, but it fundamentally does not matter because it is over. Block them and focus on getting over the hurt. Don't internalize this and punish yourself about it. Now, for the update. My life has been kinda crazy since I last posted. Not sure if anyone remembers, but my ex-fiancé left me for a younger woman after being together for 11 years and being engaged for 1. Well, a couple of days after the wedding, I got a text from an old friend asking if I was okay. She mentioned seeing pictures of the new wife on social media, looking happy and carefree. I decided to check social media, even though I had blocked them. I came across a post from a mutual friend about a beach party. The post showed the new couple together with friends, including my ex-fiancé, looking really close. It made me feel sick. A little while later, I went to a family birthday party for my cousin. The vibe was tense, and I could tell everyone knew what was going on. During the party, someone casually mentioned the new couple's honeymoon plans right in front of me. I couldn't take it anymore and left the party early, feeling overwhelmed and frustrated. The next day, I ran into an acquaintance at a grocery store who brought up the wedding. She mentioned how beautiful the new wife looked, and it hurt. A week later, I found out the new couple was going to the same local art festival my ex-fiancé and I used to go to together. I decided to go to the festival anyway, wanting to reclaim my space. Well, guess what? I unexpectedly ran into my ex-fiancé and his new wife at the festival. The new wife was with a group of friends, laughing loudly and drawing attention. My ex-fiancé came up to me, trying to make small talk, which felt so forced. I was uncomfortable and decided to walk away from the conversation. As I walked away, I overheard the new wife making a rude comment about me. Later that week, I got an invite to a family holiday gathering for Thanksgiving. I learned that the new couple would be attending the same gathering, and it made me anxious. At the gathering, my family was overly enthusiastic about the new couple's presence. I felt like an outsider as my family fawned over the new wife, sharing stories of the wedding. My brother even made a joke about how the new wife is everything I'm not. I couldn't take it anymore and decided to leave the gathering early. A few days later, my dad called me, asking about my absence at the holiday. I expressed my frustration about being compared to the new wife, leading to a heated argument with my dad. It felt like no one understood what I was going through. Recently, I learned about a community event where the new couple would be participating, and I decided to go. At the event, I saw the couple together, and the new wife was surrounded by people admiring her. I overheard a conversation where the new wife mentioned how she plans to have kids soon. After the event, I couldn't take it anymore. I blocked my ex-fiancé and his new wife on all social media platforms. I decided it was time to focus on my own life. I began making plans to move away from the area. I started looking for new job opportunities in another city, seeking a fresh start. I honestly can't believe how much has happened in such a short time. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, and sometimes I still feel like I'm in shock from everything that's gone down. Seeing my ex and his new wife everywhere I turn has been torture, but blocking them on social media was a huge relief. The support from some friends and family has helped a lot, but it's been tough because not everyone gets what I'm going through. The idea of moving away is super scary, but also kinda exciting. I just want to find my own happiness, away from all the reminders of my past. I don't know what else to say. Thank you for listening. Edit. I found out my ex-fiancé and his new wife had been cheating for the last 3 years of our relationship. Am I the idiot for letting my pregnant wife grill my sister about her life choices at our family dinner? Wife and I invited both sides of our family over last evening for a big announcement. We're pregnant. In total, it was my mother, younger sister, and grandmother, along with both of my wife's parents, grandparents, and older sister, her husband, and her niece. Everything went well with the announcement, and tears were shed on both sides of our family, mainly our parents and grandparents. Everyone was talkative and inundated my wife with questions. She was happy to answer and talk about the baby and our excitement. It's all she can talk about to everybody. My sister was engaged but didn't talk much. She isn't that much of a talker in big settings, and she and my wife don't have that deep of a bond, but she's always cordial. I think my wife was trying to include her in the conversation and noticed her quietness because eventually she turned her attention to my sister and began asking her quite personal questions, specifically about her life and future plans. She still lives with my mother and is in between jobs. My sister just responded with, "Finding a career I like and finishing writing my book. She hopes to be a writer." But even after this answer, my wife kept prying. At this point, things were starting to get awkward at the table. My mother tried to lighten the mood by basically saying she'll get to where she needs to be in time. My wife asked her if she had a boyfriend, and my sister said no, and that she doesn't want one. I could tell she was getting uncomfortable, and I tried to change the subject, but for some reason, my wife just wouldn't let up. She said something about her being such a pretty girl, and that she hopes that she can find a committed relationship because intimacy in marriage will open her up to true womanhood. At this point, I told my wife that my sister doesn't seem too comfortable with her questions and that we should talk about something else. Everyone was silent at the table, and I think that was what gave her the hint that she went too far. The subject changed, but for the rest of the night there was an awkward tension, and my sister didn't talk anymore at all or say goodbye. Later that night, once everyone had left, I got a call from my mother. She was a bit upset at the fact that she felt like my wife was attacking my sister and felt as if her questions were inappropriate. I told her I would have a chat with my wife, but my wife was actually upset too because she felt as if the night was ruined because of the tension that happened after she was just trying to make friendly conversation. She said she was just trying to encourage her, but I tried to explain that my sister doesn't have an interest in that stuff, sex or relationships, and that it was odd to ask. I honestly don't think she meant any malicious intent with the things she said. She's just a bit overwhelmed with the excitement and love she feels about being pregnant. I am too. But I tried to explain to her that it put my sister in an awkward situation, and there are some things that people may not feel comfortable talking about. Now, there is a bit of strain between her and me and between her and my family because of this. There have never been any issues between our families before. She doesn't think she really did anything that wrong. Is there a way I can help her understand my family's perspective and maybe vice versa? While she's pregnant, I don't want to cause her undue stress more than what's necessary. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your wife needs to not only apologize, but attempt to increase her emotional intelligence to anything above 0, because that's where it is now. To think she did this in front of people your sister maybe doesn't even know well, your wife's family, is just astounding. She's the "I'm a feminist, I can actually cook" woman from TikTok. Insert disgusting looking pasta dish. It's that bad. Comment 2. Oh my gosh. Your wife was being a smug married. That person's so in love and happy they think everyone who isn't is so sad and lonely. They can't possibly be as happy as them. She definitely needs to apologize, but she needs to see where she went wrong before she does. Smug Married is from the first Bridget Jones movie, and there is a perfect example. Now for the update. My sister texted me the day after the family gathering asking if we could talk. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to know this, but she suggested meeting at a local cafe where we used to chill in high school. So yeah, we had our little reunion at the cafe. She was late and looked super tense and almost avoided eye contact when she sat down. I could tell something was up, and it wasn't just the awkwardness of us being there. She started right away saying how uncomfortable she felt at the gathering. I just listened while she explained how the questions from my wife felt invasive and like she was being pressured into something. I had to admit, it did feel a bit like that, but I also knew my wife was just trying to include her. My sister then told me she's been going through a rough patch lately and didn't want to discuss her plans. I reassured her that I understood and would definitely talk to my wife about it. She seemed relieved, but still a bit hesitant. She mentioned feeling upset lately with the whole family dynamic. I didn't press her on that. That evening, I sat down with my wife to discuss what happened at the cafe. I explained how my sister felt uncomfortable and how it was because she felt overwhelmed by all the personal questions. My wife got super defensive about it, insisting she was only trying to connect with and support my sister. I get that, but come on, there's a line, right? I suggested that we both take a step back from my sister and give her some space. She reluctantly agreed, but didn't seem happy about it. Then a few days later, I overheard my mom talking to my sister during a phone call while I was in the kitchen. I learned that my sister felt isolated and thought the family didn't get what she was going through. It broke my heart to hear that. I decided right then to invite my sister over for dinner to show her some support. I figured it was a good way to try to mend things between her and my wife. I planned a quiet evening with just my sister and my wife. When I called my sister to invite her, she hesitated at first, but accepted after I reassured her that it would be chill. On the night of the dinner, the atmosphere felt a bit heavy, and my sister arrived looking anxious. My wife tried to initiate some small talk, but my sister just went quiet and only responded when asked directly. I could feel the awkwardness building, so I decided to change the topic to something neutral. We talked about the upcoming holidays, which seemed to ease the atmosphere a bit. Just when things seemed to improve, though, my wife accidentally brought up my sister's career plans again. I could see my sister visibly tense up, and I quickly intervened, redirecting the conversation to something less heavy. I thought we were going to get through this dinner without any issues, but nope. The following weekend, I organized a family trip to this amusement park nearby. I thought it would be a good way to get everyone together and have some fun. During the trip, my sister actually seemed more relaxed, laughing on the rides and just enjoying the time with the family. It was a relief to see her like that. After the park, we all gathered for ice cream, and it just made everyone feel so lighthearted. Finally, my sister opened up about some of her interests, and it brought smiles from everyone. By the end of the day, my sister suggested we have regular family outings to stay close. I was so happy that she felt that way. I told her that we should totally do that, and I'd be the one organizing most of them. But on the drive home, I noticed my sister was a bit quiet. I asked her if she was okay, and she just said she was tired. Later that night, she sent me a text saying she had a great time and was glad we did it. I felt really good about how things turned out. I just hope this is a step in the right direction for her and my wife. Honestly, I feel like my sister needs more people in her corner. I want to show her that she has support from our family, even if it takes a little while for everyone to get there. I'm just really hoping for the best. Also, I read every comment, so please comment. To answer a few questions, My sister is quite private and doesn't share much about her life, which is why my wife was so eager to include her in conversations at the gathering. My wife has always been outgoing and loves encouraging people, so her intentions were never malicious. I think my sister felt overwhelmed because she wasn't expecting so much attention on her during the gathering. The dinner I organized was meant to help mend things between my wife and sister. I want to make sure my sister feels supported by our family and that my wife understands her perspective better. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.